Hello again, children. For the past couple of days, we've been looking at clauses and phrases. We're going to look at clauses again today. So let's just remind ourselves. Now, whilst you're thinking about what is a clause and what is a phrase, I'd like you to go and pause the video and go and get yourself a piece of paper and a pencil. So go and do that whilst you're thinking about what is a clause and what is a phrase. Okay, so a clause, if you remember, a clause is a collection of words containing a subject and a verb. So it's a collection of words containing a subject and a verb. The verb is the most important thing. And we can have a main clause. A main clause is a collection of words containing a subject and a verb that makes sense on its own. A subordinate clause is a collection of words containing a subject and a verb, but it needs the main clause for it to make sense. It's less important than the main clause. It needs the main clause for it to make sense. Now, there's another type of clause that we need to think about, and those are what we call independent clauses. Now, sentences can be made of two or more independent clauses, and they are of equal value. They join together. They need to be looked after to join together, but they're not subordinate. They're joined together using coordinating conjunctions. That's fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet. So your independent clauses are joined together using fanboys. So I thought before we carry on, let's have a little practice of using the and the but for these sentences to be joined together to make one sentence. We've got two independent clauses here. The beach is a lot of fun. The fairground is even better. We have to decide the beach is a lot of fun and the fairground is even better, or the beach is a lot of fun, but the fairground is even better, and it's joined with a but. We all went to the cinema. We agreed that we enjoyed it. We all went to the cinema and we agreed that we enjoyed it. So if I write those for you, they should look like this. Here's the first one. The beach is a lot of fun, but the fairground is even better. And then if we look at the next one, we all went to the cinema and we agreed that we enjoyed it. Okay, so what you need to do is pause the video and have a go at the next few. Are those independent clauses, those little simple sentences, going to be joined with an and or a but? Pause the video and have a go. Okay, let's quickly whiz through these. I went to the supermarket, but I forgot to buy the milk. I went upstairs and put my pajamas on. I put up my raincoat on, but it was not raining. The hall is so hot, and I think I might faint. We went to the shop, but it was closed for the holiday. I put my shoes on, and I went outside. Well done if you got those. So today we're going to look at subordinating conjunctions, and we know that they start with a subordinate clause. So I'm going to play you a little song. It's on this YouTube link here, and I think it's called Anchor Literacy or Creative Literacy. You'll see when we open it up in a minute, but the song should help us to work out what is the job of a subordinate clause, and to help us a little bit, to help us to remember what subordinating conjunctions are. So here we go. There might be an advert. We might just have to play the advert and move it out of the way. Yeah, we've got an advert here.
By 2050, there will be
Subordinate means less important than the main clause. A subordinate clause adds more detail about the main clause. You'll need a subordinating conjunction to kick off your subordinate clause. It'll make sense at 3 different points in the sentence, so get ready, here we go. You'll need after, although, as, because, before, start of the sentence, a subordinate clause can come. Just after the first noun, a subordinate clause can come. At the very end of the sentence, so get ready, here we go. You'll need one of these words. After, although, as because, before. Due to, once, since, unless, though. After, although, as because, before. Due to, once, since, unless, though. Until, when, if, while, whether. Until, when, if, while, whether. Until, when, if, while, whether. Until, when. I believe what I say is true. Although I do see your point, I do see your point. Peanut butter is better than jam. Because it doesn't taste fruity, it doesn't taste fruity. I have never liked blue cheese. As it tastes like feet, it tastes like meat. I'd like to live on a sailing ship. Because I love to swim, because I love to swim. After, although, as because, before. Due to, once, since, unless, though. After, although, as because, before. Due to, once, since, unless, though. Until, when, if, while, whether. Until, when, if, while, whether. Until, when, if, while, whether. Until, when. The pig, although she is kind, is hated by her friends, hated by her friends. Before she went to bed, Caroline ate a secret cake. We loved to play in the park. Once we finished all the homework, after my very long run, I will eat all of my mum's chocolate cakes. After, although, as because, before. Due to, once, since, unless, though. After, although, as because, before. Due to, once, since, unless, though. Until, when, if, while, whether. Until, when, if, while, whether. Until, when, if, while, whether. Until, when. Unless he starts to behave, my dog is in deep trouble, as fast as a speeding bullet. Superman ate his chips, whilst trying not to fall off. The king played on the trampoline. When the clock strikes 12, Cinderella must rush home, After, although, as because, before. Due to, once, since, unless, though. After, although, as because, before. Due to, once, since, unless, though. Until, when, if, while, whether. Until, when, if, while, whether. Until, when, if, while, whether. Until, when.
Yeah, so the company's called Anchor. And so if you want to find that on YouTube, you need to look for, I think it's called Creative Literacy. Look there, Creative Literacy. I think that's quite helpful. It helps you to remember what the subordinating conjunctions are, but it also helps you to hear subordinate clauses in sentences. So your job next is to have a look at these sentences, and you have to decide whether the bit that's underlined is the main clause or the subordinate clause. I'll give you a little clue. If the subordinate clause is at the beginning, it will be followed by a comma, won't it? And think about those subordinating conjunctions. All right, so pause the video and have a go at this activity. Okay, you've had a go at that one. So let's have a look. This is the activity you were doing. So let's have a look at the answers. How did you get on? Were there any there that were a little bit tricky? Just have a look through. I'm hoping you did a really good job with those. You can see the coordinate subordinating conjunctions, and that should have helped you to work out whether it's a main clause or a subordinate clause. Now, alongside subordinate clauses, relative clauses are a type of subordinate clause. We've already discovered that. So I've got another little song for you to listen to here to help us to understand what a relative clause does. You should be really good at these by now, but the song will also give you some clues. Again, there might be an advert that we need to move out the way first. It's the same company.
Vanish
Let's just
Gold
lose the
Carpet Care
advert.
lifts the dirt that hoovering can't reach. Trust Pick. Revive carpets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Relative clause give us extra information. Relative clause tell us about the noun. Relative clause use a relative pronoun. Who, whose, that, which. The dog who smells lives at 22 Pineapple Road. My mum, who is evil, puts diamonds all over her face. The school gates that are blue keep naughty burglars away. Dr. Smelly, whose nose is massive, eats mainly Haribo straws. Relative clause give us extra information. Relative clause tell us about the noun. Relative clause use a relative pronoun. Who, whose, that, which. The princess whose heart is broken sat and cried in the great hall. The magical table that grants wishes cost £400,000. The teacher who hunts for glitter sits and cries into her cheese. My porridge that gives me energy is made from the tears of a duck. You need commas to protect the relative clause. A comma on each side of the relative clause. The sentence will make sense without the relative clause. But let's be honest, it makes the sentence better. Relative clause give us extra information. Relative clause tell us about the noun. Relative clause use a relative pronoun. Who, whose, that, which. Relative clause give us extra information. Relative clause tell us about the noun. Relative clause use a relative pronoun. Who, whose, that, which.
Okay, so there's two songs there that could help us quite a bit with our clauses. So a relative clause is a special type of subordinate clause. It doesn't make sense on its own. It needs a main clause to help us. So what you're going to do here is you're going to have a look at each of these sentences, and again you're going to decide whether the bit that's underlined is a main clause or a subordinate clause. So some of these will be main clauses, some of these will be subordinate clauses, and some of them will be relative clauses. So just think really carefully. Just remember as well, if we look at this example here, the sun, sparkling like a diamond, was overhead. The sun was overhead. That's your clause there. The sun was overhead. So pause the video and have a go. Okay, let's quickly whiz through these then, shall we? So the shop, which was apparently open, is a relative clause. The sun, sparkling like a diamond, was overhead, main clause. Getting up from his seat, the teacher shouted at the children. Well, getting up from his seat is a fronted adverbial, isn't it? The teacher shouted at the children is a main clause. The toolkit, which was strapped to his waist, is a relative clause. Mrs. Smith who is our maths teacher, always plans great lessons. Main clause. Where I live, subordinate clause. Although it was raining, that's a subordinate clause. The old man decided to clean his car. Main clause. Harry walked to the park that was full of children. Subordinate clause. After completing her homework, subordinate conjunction up there, that is a subordinate clause. Before starting work, Lila went for a run. Main clause. Andrew cooked a Sunday roast, which was delicious. Subordinate clause. She paid the bill after eating her meal. Subordinate clause. Once his bed was made, Jake was able to play on his game. Main clause. Real Madrid, my favourite team. That's not really, but let's just ignore that. Real Madrid, my favourite team, or the best club. Well, actually, that should say Real Madrid. That is my favourite team. So that's a relative clause. The tennis player won the match by 1 point. I hate my stripy scarf that my mum knitted for me. How did you get on with those? Quite a few to think about there. Okay, so our next job, if I can find where we were. There. Our next job is to think about the position of the clause. So let's look at this sentence. Yesterday, the boy, who was only 4, ran across the incredibly busy road. Got a few things going on here. Yesterday, that's the fronted adverbial, and across the incredibly busy road. Well, across the incredibly busy road is a prepositional phrase, but the incredibly busy road is an expanded noun phrase. And here I can see a relative clause. We tidy that up a little bit. I can see a relative clause separated out by some commas here. Let's look underneath. Let's see what the next one is. So we're going to rewrite the sentence without the fronted adverbial. So if I took out the fronted adverbial, what would my sentence say? So get yourself a piece of paper and a pencil, and can you rewrite this sentence without the fronted adverbial? Okay, let's just rub out my commas so they don't get in the way. Let's just take away my underlining there. Okay, so if I rewrote it without the fronted adverbial, I would take out yesterday and I would then need a capital letter in there. Gosh, I wasn't expecting that to be yellow. So the boy, who was only 4, ran across the incredibly busy road. So I've taken out the fronted adverbial. Okay. So if we look at the sentence again, it now says rewrite the sentence without the expanded noun phrase. So we start with this first sentence. What would it look like without the expanded noun phrase? So pause the video and write the sentence without the expanded noun phrase. Okay, so here's the expanded noun phrase. I'm going to cross it out there. I've got the and I've got incredibly busy. So without the expanded noun phrase, your sentence should say, yesterday, the boy, who was only 4, ran across, oh, I'm still going to need that definite article there, aren't I? Ran across the road. We don't need incredibly busy. Okay. Try our next challenge. It says rewrite the sentence without the relative clause. So what would my sentence look like if I didn't have the relative clause in there? So pause the video and have a go. Okay, you're quite right. Let's just move this. Here's my relative clause. I'm going to cross it out. And now my sentence says, yesterday, the boy ran across the incredibly busy road. Brilliant. One more thing to do. And now we've got to add something to it. It says, rewrite the sentence adding a subordinate clause at the end. So think about the if, as, when, because. Think about your subordinating conjunctions. Okay, have you had a go? Now it says using the subordinating conjunction because. Tried to trick you there a little bit, didn't I? Let's see. Let's move this. If I need to rewrite mine, I'm going to take out the full stop, aren't I? And to replace it with a because. Yesterday, the boy, who was only 4, ran across the busy road because he saw his friend. There's my subordinating conjunction and my subordinate clause. Okay, now the main clause of the next sentence is the children were lost. So what I want you to do is I want you to add a prepositional phrase, an adverbial of place to your sentence. I want you to add a prepositional phrase, an adverbial of place. Thinking about the children were lost in the jungle, the children were lost. Work it out. And I want you to now add a subordinate clause using my favourite subordinating conjunction, as. So you might say something like, the children were lost in the jungle as they had been in a plane crash. The children were lost in the jungle as they had been in a plane crash. This is what I've said. The children were lost in the jungle as they didn't have a map. Here's the explorer look. And the main clause is the explorer was cross. Okay, so you're going to need a pencil and your paper again because you've got some jobs to do. I want you to create an expanded noun phrase. So your expanded noun phrase is going to describe the explorer. There's the noun. I want you to add a subordinating conjunction starting with the word, add a subordinate clause, shouldn't we? Add a subordinate clause starting with when. Have a go. So the explorer was crossed. So your expanded noun phrase is going in there, and when can go at the end there. Pause the video and have a go. Okay, so here's the one I did. The lonely, worried explorer was cross when he realised the children would tell the world about the ruined city. Now, if you look, my subordinate clause is actually much longer than my main clause, and that doesn't matter. How did you get on with yours? Okay, so you've got one last task to do today, and that's to help you to remember how to use or how to recognise clauses and phrases. You've got a short writing task. It says, Lila is writing about the ruined city. What would she say? Remember to make sure you use a range of clauses and phrases to make your writing more detailed. So you to write a short paragraph or two about Lila describing the ruined city. But in your sentences, I want you to remember to use a range of clauses and phrases to add more detail. But most importantly, don't forget your capital letters and your full stops. When you've written about the ruined city, perhaps you'd like to send it to me because I'd really like to see it. Okay, that's it for today. Another job for us to do tomorrow.